In this playthrough of Pokemon Renegade Platinum, I'll be attempting to beat the game without taking damage. For the uninitiated, Renegade Platinum is a quality of life improvement ROM hack of Pokemon Platinum that also increases the difficulty, especially in regards to bosses. For added fun, and because getting a free switch in is kind of overpowered and would trivialize pretty much every fight, I'll be playing on set mode. Non-held items are also banned in battle. Not that they'd be that helpful most of the time, since using the X item is like a free turn for your opponent, but there are situations they would be useful and make some strategies less interesting. For even more added fun, instead of the usual save after every gym rule, I'll save whenever I want, but aim for 100% consistent strategies. I mean, I think we all know it's possible to beat most fights in the game damageless when double team exists, so this should make the challenge more fun. There are a few exceptions to my consistency rule at the start, which I'll do as consistently as I can, but after that it's 100% strats all the way. And if you stick around until the end of this video, things get crazy with the Elite Four. If you've played this ROM hack before, you'll know what I mean. Naturally, I named my rival False Swipe, a move that would devastate me. But maybe I should have named my rival the first rival fight because oh boy. There was no hope of a 100% consistent way to get through this one, since obviously I can't train my Pokemon before it starts. Between Turtwig, Piplup, and Chimchar, Turtwig is the best option. It has the highest attack and also has the best matchup, going against Chimchar. The only way to win this fight is to get Chimchar to use Leer 4 times while I attack him with a high attack IV Turtwig and or have an attack increasing nature. Only problem, he will at a maximum use Leer 3 times before attacking with Scratch, forcing me to restart the fight. But Alec, I hear you typing. In Small Ant's no damage video, Chimchar used Leer 4 times in a row on his third try. Why is it any different here? Well, the thing is, in this ROM hack, all trainers use better AI usually only assigned to bosses like the Elite Four. In general, that's good, because that makes them consistent. But here, it means False Swipe will never use Leer that one more time I need him to. So what, right? Why not just get a critical hit? Well, funny thing is that critical hits literally cannot happen for this one fight in the game in particular. I tried this fight for over 6 real-life hours. Most of them on emulator speed up, and not once did me or my rival get one. So maybe Turtwig isn't really the best choice after all. If I pick Piplup, even if it's incredibly unlikely, I can hope Tackle misses 8 times in a row due to its 95% accuracy, right? Wrong again, bucko! In this ROM hack, Tackle has 100% accuracy, and without critical hits, even if False Swipe used Withdraw 6 times, that wouldn't be enough. Chimchar's best chance would be to burn the Piplup turn 1 and scratch it until it faints, but I'll get attacked way before that. At this point, I'm wondering if it even is possible, and if it is, how unlikely it would be. So I go into BK Hex and give Turtwig a beneficial speed nature that doesn't lower attack, and give him perfect speed and attack IVs so I could guarantee a 4-shot. With these maxed out stats, Turtwig can have at most 9 speed at level 5. With the diminishing speed nature on Chimchar and 17 or less speed IVs, his lowest possible speed at this level is also 9. So I threw myself back into the battle, and a pre-battle cutscene that only gets more fun to watch the more I retry this fight. After many attempts, not once did I get a speed tie. I didn't restart on my first turn either, since the only turn I would need to outspeed him is the last one. It would seem that False Swipe is assigned to specific Chimchar with a predetermined nature and or IV total. My last final chance was to use Withdraw. I said that he only uses Leer 3 times, that's technically not true though. If I use Withdraw, he can use Leer more than thrice. So I tried it some more, but he'll still only use it, so I'll have at the lowest -3 defense, which is the same result as before. My last final concluding chance was to take advantage of this AI quirk with a different Pokemon. If I can burn the Piplup and use Leer, I might get it to growl enough for the burn to damage it a sufficient amount for Scratch to finish the What's that? Using Leer won't make him use Growl more since it doesn't actually cancel each other out, even though it technically does? Cool. Yeah. As far as I know, this fight is impossible to get through damageless. Maybe there's a specific stat total that will make the AI use Leer that 4th time, but even with maximum defense IVs and nature, he wouldn't. The best I could do was to get through this fight taking 8 damage, and that was with that maximum defense I was just talking about. If he uses Scratch turn 1, he'll never use Leer after that. Since this is the tutorial, I don't count it as a loss, even though it sucks I wasn't able to beat it with this challenge. That being said, as long as I can beat the rest of the game without taking damage, I'll consider it a win. After talking to the professor, 3 gift Pokemon are available right away. He'll give you the 2 starters you don't have, and by talking to your mom, she'll give you an Eevee. Instead of a catching tutorial, Dawn fights you in this game, so to progress I'll have to win against her, which means I need to train. You know how I said I'd try to make this run as consistent as possible? Well, part of that means I have to assume Pokemon I can only get once have the worst IVs in nature, and it just so happens that the Chimchar I got is one of those with the worst possible speed, meaning it can't run away from every wild encounter. The reason that matters is because there's a specific Pokemon I need to fight if I want to level up in a consistent way. Kricketot with a 10% counter rate has the moves Bide, String Shot, Growl, and in this ROM hack, Bug Bite. So it's not a guaranteed win, but better than the other Pokemon I can find with 1 attacking and 1 non-attacking move at best. Eevee has the ability Runaway, so even if it had terrible speed, I could guarantee fleeing from bad encounters. At level 5, Kricketot is a 2-shot, which means I needed to use Bide, String Shot, or Growl to get by. I get hit by the second one, going back to my last save. The next 4 don't use Bug Bite, and I level up to 6. At this level, my attack is high enough to go for Bite the first turn to try the 30% flinch before the bug bites me. This can potentially backfire if he uses Growl, but the chances of winning the fight are higher this way. At level 9, I one-shot Kricketot and even steal a Metronome. Stealing items from wild Pokemon will always be an option to get infinite money at this point of the game if I need it. I've still got a long way to go before one-shotting Dawn's Piplup, but from this point on, I think I can start relying on 100% consistent strategies. Finally, at level 23, Eevee takes Piplup out in 1 hit. As a reward, I'm given some Pokeballs, but part of my consistency is catching Pokemon without getting hit guaranteed, so they won't be put to use just yet. Thanks to Quick Attack, I don't have to worry about the same move on opposing Pokemon, carrying me all the way to Jubilife City. Once there, I get the 3 Kanto starters, each holding the item that boosts moves of their type, ignore an egg that can hatch in multiple different Pokemon, get the I'm not recording at 2:32 AM, that would be crazy. Get the Olderod, and some dive balls that will come in handy later. Normally, I'd be able to catch Magikarp since it only knows Splash, but in this game it also knows Tackle at level 10. The next fight against False Swipe is pretty straightforward. Quick Attack the Starly before it can do the same to me, and covet the rest. Seeing the level disparity of my team, he gives me the experience share earlier than you'd get it in the base game. When fighting this youngster, I find out something important. Some mechanics are updated to later generations, so even though in Platinum, Quick Attack and Fake Out both have +1 priority, in Renegade Platinum, Fake Out has +3 priority. To solve this, I give Chimchar the experience share, and have Eevee battle wild Pokemon until Chimchar evolves and can do it himself without getting hit. During this, I find multiple Abra, who only know Teleport, meaning I can safely throw Pokeballs at them until I catch one. At level 23, Monferno learns Fake Out, and with his higher speed, land mine first. From there, the rest of the fight is easy. In Oreburgh City, I get the 3 Hoenn starters and a Beldum from Steven. I'm also allowed 1 Evolution Stone of my choice. It doesn't actually matter which one you pick, but I choose a Moonstone which evolves Eevee into Umbreon in this game. The only reason I did that was to catch a Ralts Guaranteed who, at the level I find it, only knows Psychic type attacking moves that don't affect the Dark type Umbreon. In Rourke's fight, it was clear I needed to level up some more so I could one-shot everything. At level 30, Monferno gets the job done. For important battles like this one, I'll be doing them multiple times to quadruple check their consistency. The only thing that changes in this fight is that Larvitar may or may not use Protect on the first turn he's in. Either way, I take him out in one hit, so he's just delaying the inevitable. The first gym is beaten after 7 hours and 57 minutes of in-game time, which is actually less than the real life time it took me to get here now that I'm thinking about it. The next battle is a multi-battle with Dawn that I can't force into singles. The Glameow always starts with Fake Out. Even if I counter with a Fake Out of my own, I still risk getting hit by the other Pokemon. There's one Pokemon I have access to right now that can play around Fake Out and take out all the opponents at once, Mudkip. It learns Protect and 2 multi-target moves, Bulldoze and Earthquake. I train him up by giving him the experience share first and level him up alone when he's powerful enough. I'm not going to bore you all with the details of my grinding, that would make the video even longer than it already is, and also less interesting. I intentionally waited to evolve Marshtomp until level 38 so it learned Earthquake earlier. I can now Protect turn 1 and use Earthquake the next 2 turns for a clean victory with 0 risk. Speaking of 0 risk, I can catch Pokemon that know Bide by protecting turn 1, and if they use that move, I throw Pokeballs for the next 2 turns. If they don't use Bide, I just run away and look for another one. Commander Mars has a Yanma with Speed Boost, which isn't fun to be on the receiving end for a change. She also has a Perugly with Fake Out. I need to level up my Swampert quite a bit so I can outspeed Yanma's +1 speed since it doesn't even try for double detect. After that, Protect on the first turn Perugly is sent out to prevent incoming Fake Out and hit it next turn. After fighting Cheryl, she agrees to forcing me to escort her through the woods. Thankfully, the trees here that you'd normally need to cut aren't in this game. This allows me to dodge otherwise forced multi-battles, and I can make the other battles I need to do singles. While I'm here, I pick up the TM for Shadowclaw, which, like all TMs in this game, comes with 99 copies. Once me and the Max Elixir Waster part ways, she gives me the TMs for return, and I can now catch wild Pokemon safely. I start with Slackoth, who I can protect against on odd turns and throw Pokeballs at on even turns because of its Truant ability. To properly explain my next capture, we need to go into a little segment I like to call Someone Who Probably Shouldn't Be Teaching Math Explains the Pokemon Capture Rate Formula. Here's the formula on screen, which might look a little intimidating, but since every Pokemon you need to capture on the first turn will always have 100% of its health, we can ignore the letters M and H entirely, which is how the formula calculates the difference between a Pokemon's current health and its maximum health. Since, as you know, the more you damage a Pokemon, the more likely you are to capture it. And because we're ignoring M and H, we can cancel out the first parentheses, since multiplying by 1 will give us the same number we started with. We can also ignore S, which stands for status condition. That leaves C times B, and you divide whatever that number comes out to by 3. C is the capture rate of whatever Pokemon you're trying to catch. In this case, Nincada has the highest capture rate in the game of 255, shared by many early game Pokemon. B is the ball bonus. Normal Pokeballs have a ball bonus of 1, whereas Ultra Balls have a ball bonus of 2, which doesn't guarantee captures even on Pokemon with a 255 capture rate. But Pokeballs made for specific instances have higher ball bonuses. The Netball has a ball bonus of 3 in this generation so long as you're capturing a bug or water type Pokemon, and that's exactly what I need. This gives me 255 times 3, which equals 765. Divide that by 3 to get 255 again. With this number, to know the probability of capturing the Pokemon, we divide our answer by 255. 255 divided by 255 equals 1, or 100%. Basically, any number this formula gives me of 255 or higher guarantees a capture. Anything lower I won't go for unless I can repeat the throw with no risk, like how I've been capturing other Pokemon by using Protect so far. Of course, this is what happens to the formula when you hold down B while capturing. I can now pick up some berries, am handed every fossil in the game, but most importantly now have access to Name Raider and properly nickname my Swampert since he's been putting in so much work. I'm not going to explain how I caught every Pokemon I did without risking anything, so if you notice any Pokemon in my party that you're curious as to how I caught it, comment below and I'll answer. It's good for the YouTube algorithm. Jeez, what's next? Should I start complaining about how people who aren't my subscribers are searching and getting recommended my videos as if that's a bad thing? Don't tell anyone I said that. In this game, before the second gym, you have to talk to Gardenia on Route 216, which is hailing. There's a mandatory battle on the way, so I have to get through it without getting buffeted. To fix this problem, and future problems, I need to catch a Shellder. To do that safely, I need a Shedinja. So I train my Nincada until it evolves into Ninjask, have a discarded shell, and keep that while leaving Ninjask in the box for the rest of the game. I can now fish for a Shellder at the Valley 1 Works. With the Dive Ball, a Shellder at full health only has a 99.994% chance to be captured, and we can't have that, can we? Since Shedinja's unaffected by all of its attacks thanks to Wonder Guard, I can play around a 1 in 65,536 chance of failure. I evolve Shellder into Cloyster at level 15, which means I have to forego Ice Shard in favor of Spike Cannon, which I thought would be more useful with Skill Link as my ability. At level 34, I outspeed the Force Battle Swallow. Yes, level 33 was a speed tie, thanks for asking. With Cloyster, I can easily deal with Gardenia's Pokemon. The only one that would be an issue is Cherim since it's holding a Focus Sash, but that's what my multi-striking moves are for. What? Okay. It looks like one of the only mechanics in the game that stays true to Generation 4 is that multi-strike moves have each hit affected by the same Focus Sash. Unlike how it works Generation 5 and onwards, where the Sash can only activate on one instance of a multi-striking move. That complicates things, especially considering how most bosses have a Focus Sash holder, but just like that, things are going to get more interesting too. Instead, I start the fight with Cloyster to take out Tangela since it knows Ancient Power. When Cherim is sent in, it'll always go for Grass Knot, so I can safely switch into Shedinja. The only way Cherim can hurt it is to use Weather Ball while the sun is up, so it'll go for Sunny Day, giving me a free turn to break the Focus Sash, and I can easily finish the fight from there, as the only other move she has that affects Shedinja is Sleep Powder. 25 hours and 22 minutes of in-game time, and we've got the second gym badge. Dawn also has a Focus Sash, but it's on her lead Pokemon, so a simple Fake Out breaks it. The Clefairy goes for Thunder Wave against Infernape every time, so he's holding a Cherry Berry to ensure a 2-hit KO. Last up is Lopunny, who has Fake Out and the ability Scrappy, allowing it to hit Ghost Pokemon with normal and fighting moves. But Wonder Guard outranks that, and it has no moves that affect Shedinja, so I can safely finish the fight. Dawn gifts me the Versus Seeker, so if necessary, I can farm money easily. I pick up the TM for Swords Dance and meet this rude stranger that has the audacity to claim my Pokemon look hurt. Like what? Challenges me to a battle I can't say no to, and has a Focus Sash on his team. Okay, maybe Shedinja can break it again, and nope, it has Air Slash, so Shedinja can at best leave the full 1 HP before taking damage. If I lead with Shedinja, Aaron will either switch into Beautifly or Drapion, since they both know super effective moves, whereas the lead Dustox can't hit me. If he switches into Beautifly, that's a free turn to break the Sash. Problem is a 50-50 isn't 100% consistent last time I checked. There's only one Pokemon in the game that can save me now. A Pokemon that can learn U-turn while having a type Flying isn't super effective against, since bug types are most of the Pokemon that can learn it. And instead, a type that will bait the AI into using a move that won't affect Shedinja. That Pokemon is Finneon, which is another 99.994% capture that can affect Shedinja. A ton of grinding later, and Finneon learns U-turn at level 42 so I can evolve it. Shedinja needed a boost in levels as well, so it would outspeed the Drapion. Now I can one-shot the lead with Psybeam. When Beautifly is next, I go for U-turn, and the AI responds with Energy Ball, which doesn't affect Shedinja. I need to level up all the way to level 64 to outspeed a level 32 Drapion, so that's cool. The rest of the fight is no issue. In Hearthome City, I pick up the TM for Scald, which will be immediately put to use against Fantina. The only potential issue is that Banette knows Sucker Punch. However, since Shadow Ball does the most damage, Sucker Punch isn't super effective, and I've got too much health for the priority move to one-shot, Fantina will never go for it, so I can just Scald all her Sashless Pokemon for the victory. 38 in-game hours in, and I've only needed to double my opponent's level with Shedinja. This Team Galactic event requires me to beat 3 grunts in a row. The problems are that I can't switch my lead in between battles. One has an Incada, one has an Ninjask with a Focus Sash, one has a Shedinja with a Focus Sash. Did I mention that you have to beat these 3 fights in exactly 6 turns? Any more or less, and the story doesn't progress because, reasons. This wasn't a problem I was expecting to face, but oh boy is it a big one. Somehow I need to break both Sashes without getting hit with the same lead and in a timely manner. I tried U-turn to break Ninjask's Sash, but he'll still use Air Slash to hit an incoming Shedinja. Even if I make it to the Grunt Shedinja, it comes with issues of its own. I tried Fake Out with Infernape, but if I switch to Shedinja, he can use Shadow Sneak the turn I switch in, which I'd need an extra turn after the Sash is gone anyway. I can't even PP stall him out of Shadow Sneak, so I could hit him twice with my Shedinja by switching between it and a normal type Pokemon, considering how many turns that would take. Unfortunately, there's not really anything I can do. Needing my lead to no Fake Out and then go 2 turns without getting hit by Shedinja just isn't a guaranteed win, so I can't 100% consistently get through these battles. He can use Mind Reader turn 1, but he'll only do that sometimes. Shedinja with a Focus Sash is just too strong. Shedinja with a Focus Sash. A Focus Sash on Shedinja. Shedinja wearing a Focus Sash around its halo. Wait a second. Never mind. If my Shedinja was wearing a Focus Sash, he could still get hit on the turn he switches in. If I were to somehow get a Focus Sash, I'd need some kind of normal type Pokemon I have access to that knows Fake Out and can get caught without hitting me. Well, Baneri does solve that problem so long as I have Shedinja out. Evolving my Friendship is annoying, but with a normal fighting Pokemon, Shedinja won't use Shadow Sneak on the turn I switch, since Lopunny would be immune. With the normal type Fake Out user, all I need is a Focus Sash. Now, where can I get one of those? Well, I've already battled a couple of Pokemon trainers with Focus Sashes, and in case I softlocked myself, I've been keeping backup states. I got the TM for Thief in Eternia City, and honestly should have put it to use earlier, but I have the foresight of a level 17 Rowlet. The way Focus Sashes work in this game is that they disappear if used. So if I steal one from a trainer, I have to make sure that the foe is damaged before using Thief, or takes so little damage that they're not brought down to 1 health, thus consuming it. Since this is 100% strats, I have to account for maximum damage critical hits too, and the perfect battle to do that in is the one against Aaron. U-turn will never bring Beautifly down to 1 hit point, and Thief will take it out so I don't get hit on the turn I steal. I didn't feel like grinding my Shedinja all the way back up to level 64 again, so I just showed how I would get the Focus Sash and PK Hex the Sash into my most recent state. With it now in my possession, I can give my Shedinja the Focus Sash. I lead with Lopunny, and a maximum Friendship return is more than enough to one-shot Incada using 1 of my 6 turns. I Fake Out the Ninjask and then finish it next turn with a Quick Attack, using 3 of my 6 turns. Last up is Shedinja. I Baton Pass for the Mirror match, except at a much higher level, my mirror is faster. That means I can Shadow Sneak him twice and him Shadow Sneak me only once, breaking my Sash, but what's this? Shedinja only has 1 hit point, so even though my Sash is consumed, I didn't actually take damage. What? That took 3 turns exactly, so I met the 6-turn requirement, beating the weirdest part of this challenge. Maylene's Lucario is holding a Focus Sash. Now that I'm at Veilstone City, I can buy infinite Focus Sashes for 1,000 coins each. I lead with Baneri because of Shedinja's worryingly low speed, which will always make Maylene send out Lucario last. I can safely switch into Shedinja from here because the only move that affects him is Dark Pulse, which isn't very effective on Lopunny, who was originally in. I need to use Shadow Sneak twice to outspeed the Lucario, especially considering it usually goes for agility. Otherwise, Dark Pulse could flinch since he would move first. 46 hours and 18 minutes of in-game time, and I've got half of the badges. This is normal, right? My team is normal, right? A lot of the mid-game to late-game multi-battles seem to work in the same way, where my partner and the enemies always do the same thing if I have a certain Pokemon out. So if the only move that's super effective against one of our Pokemon happens to be my partner's, they'll always take the hit. Don's Alakazam will always outspeed the opponents and hit Weezing with Psychic since it's super effective. On the same turn, I hit Skuntank with a non-contact move, so Aftermath doesn't hurt me. Psychic will always be used on Golbat now, so I take out Wormadam. Last up is 2 Pokemon Psychic is super effective against. In double battles, if my attack takes out the same target the teammate was aiming for, they'll use the same move on the other opponent, so it doesn't matter which one she aims for. To catch a Ditto safely, I can throw a Pokeball on the turn it uses Transform, and run away if it fails. I lead with Lopunny to safely deal with Arena Trap Diglets that can use Sucker Punch, thanks to their AI not being affected by Smart Trainer AI. To save some time, when I find a Ditto, I switch to my Slackoth who has 4 moves that don't do damage, and Truant. Ditto will be essential for breeding Pokemon I only get once, like all of the starters that are gifted throughout the game, to ensure the right ability, nature, and IVs. To get the TM for Protect, I need to catch at least 5 Pokemon in the Safari Zone, so that's exactly what I do. This'll definitely come in handy later. Before the gym, I have to fight False Swipe. He has a Breloom with a Focus Sash that knows Spore and Rock Tomb, so using U-Turn or switching into Shedinja is needlessly risky. Shedinja's inherently low speed is problematic, even before the Rock Tomb lowers it, so it's officially time to EV train. I breed a bunch of Nincada until I have a beneficial attack nature while lowering a stat that doesn't matter. After a while, I get one with Adamant. In this game, there's a trainer in the daycare that has a full team of Pokemon with non-attacking moves that give 3 EVs of whatever stat you pick each. She also gives you the items that give you 4 EVs of a specific stat depending on which one you're holding, each time you KO a Pokemon. With a full team of 6, that means it takes 6 battles to maximize my EVs for a specific stat. I always maximize my attack or special attack depending on the Pokemon, and speed since the other stats don't matter for this run. She also has a full team of Chanseys to quickly give experience, especially since the Lucky Egg was given to me earlier. To outspeed and one-hit KO the Staraptor, I need to level up a lot since it resists one of Shedinja's stabs and is immune to the other one. At level 88, Aerial Ace takes Staraptor out. And I can still outspeed False Swipe's other Pokemon, even with Rock Tomb lowering my speed. The fight against Wake is a problem even at level 100. Gyarados, Floatzel, and a Focus Sash wearing Sharpedo all have moves that are super effective against Shedinja. If he sends out Gyarados or Sharpedo, the fight is no issue since they both take 2 hits to KO, meaning 1 instance of my Focus Sash is enough to leave Shedinja in perfect health. But if Floatzel switched out on the first turn, even though it's rare, that means Gyarados and Sharpedo will both land a hit on Shedinja, making him take damage and faint. What I did to solve this was use Swords Dance turn 1 instead of attacking. That way, no matter who got sent out, my attack on the turn they actually try to hit me will one-shot everything other than the Sharpedo, who will only break my Sash. In hindsight, Shadow Claw would have also worked. 53 hours and 51 in-game minutes is all it took. In this forced multi-battle with Riley, the only Pokemon on the enemy team that can hurt me directly is Masquerain, so I take it out myself. At the end of the turn, Hippowdon is sent out, setting up the sand that doesn't hit yet. Since the 2 Pokemon in right now can't hurt me, I have a free turn to change the weather with Sunny Day. It doesn't matter if Lucario hits or misses Meteor Mash. Lopunny can potentially hit me with Bounce, but since it's a 2-turn move, I can protect on the same turn it would otherwise land and finish the fight safely. Byron's fight is pretty straightforward, just attack everything with Shadow Claw or Dig. The Aggron has a Focus Sash, so I still needed one of my own, but that's it. It only took 56 hours and 54 in-game minutes to get here, which is a relatively short gap between gyms for this challenge. Commander Mars's Crobat is holding Brightpowder, giving 100% accurate moves a 10% chance to miss. To counter that, I use Aerial Ace, a move that bypasses accuracy checks. The rest of the fight is uneventful. I need to get through Route 217 to progress. It's hailing, so I need to train at my Cloister a bit to deal with the forced battles. Fortunately, none of the fights here require any complicated strategy, and I can just attack with Cloister every turn. There's a double battle on the hail that can't be turned into singles. I lead with both my shedinjas, who are unaffected by Blissey's only attacking move, Dazzling Gleam. Heracross would use Rock Slide, but I take him out before he gets the chance and set up the Sun with my other shedinja. I focus the right side since Blissey can't do anything useful, but also won't switch since it has screens. Tyranitar sets up a Sandstream, but I once again set up the Sun while the other shedinja takes the Stone Edge having threat out. Once the right side is dealt with, the left can be easily focused. Candice leads with an Abomasnow whose ability sets up the hail. Problem is, her Weavile's holding a Focus Sash, so leading with Cloister will give me hit when that's sent in even if it's unaffected by hail damage. I can use Sunny Day, but that wasted turn allows her to switch since Abomasnow can't hit Shedinja and will allow Weavile to burn my Sash. I need it because the Glaceon is holding Brightpowder, and Aerial Ace isn't enough to one-shot, so Shedinja will get hit without the Sash to protect it. It's time for a weather ability of my own. I breed Squirtles until it comes with the right ability, Rain Dish. By the time it fully evolves, that ability will turn into Drizzle, which sets up the rain. When two weather ability Pokemon are sent in, the faster one activates theirs first, meaning the slower Pokemon is the one that keeps their weather. So if I don't level up my Blastoise anymore, the rain will stay up. I'm slower, so staying in isn't an option. I switch to Shedinja. Since my water Pokemon was just in, Abomasnow is always going to use Wood Hammer, which gets wonderfully guarded. Now I'm in the same situation as before, except without hail. I can use this turn initially needed for setting up the Sun as a turn to double my attack. When Glaceon is in, I can Aerial Ace for the guaranteed KO. The last Pokemon to be sent in is ironically Abomasnow. Not that it really matters, because I could have set up Sunny Day if it didn't come in last. 60 hours and 10 minutes in, I'm basically speedrunning the game at this point. Cyrus's Crobat is holding a Choice Band. I lead with my Ralts to bait it into going for Cross Poison, since Ralts is Psychic Fairy in this game. I switch into Shedinja and exploit a small flaw in the AI where it kind of continues to go for Cross Poison even though it doesn't affect it. I'm guessing this is because the Pokemon does have a move that would affect Shedinja had it not been choice locked, but I don't know. I can set up Swords Dance to my heart's content before sweeping. Now it's time for a terrible multi-battle. This is a 12 versus 12 where there are two opponents that both have 6 Pokemon each. To make matters worse, Commander Jupiter's Crobat is holding Brightpowder. Leading with Shedinja isn't an option since it will focus it with Brave Bird. Giving it Protect won't help since Staraptor can target either Crobat, which means he can miss, and his attack is even a damage roll that can sometimes leave them alive. Since I knew I would be breeding some Pokemon for this fight and future ones, I caught some Dittos so I could pass down their natures with an Everstone to the appropriate Pokemon. While I was doing that, I even found a shiny Trapinch, which is a guaranteed capture with the Netball so I could actually catch it. After a while, I get some good natures and catch a Meowth who is a guaranteed capture with the Quick Ball turn 1. I keep breeding until I get one with the Modest Nature and Technician as its ability. The Everstone only passing down natures 50% of the time is like really funny, by the way. After EV training speed, special attack, and leveling up, now holding the choice specs, Persian is ready to make his debut. He's the strongest Pokemon that can learn Swift, a move that bypasses accuracy checks and hits both opponents. With it, I can take out both Crobats in one move, guaranteed. Next, Electivire is always sent in on the right because it gains the fighting type in this game, and on the left is either Gastrodon or Tangrowth, so I have to play around with both possibilities. If I decide to use Swift again, problems arise. Though I take out both Pokemon, next in is Yanmega or Bronzong on the right, and Gastrodon or Tangrowth on the left, depending on which one didn't come out first. If I continue to use Swift, I risk the opponents having Sableye and Yanmega out at the same time, and if that happens, they can Fake Out and Hurricane my Pokemon on the same turn. Since Hurricane has a chance to confuse, a Focus Sash isn't enough to protect Shedinja from the result 100% of the time, so I have to play around this possibility. That, and even if it doesn't get confused, Yanmega will outspeed Shedinja next turn anyway. The only consistent thing I can get the AI to do is after my first turn mandatory Swift, Staraptor uses Brave Bird on the Electivire or the Gastrodon or Tangrowth, so if I can guarantee my victory from either option, I'll be fine. I send in Shedinja after dealing with the Crobats. Gastrodon can't affect it with any of her moves, and although Tangrowth has Leech Seed, I never have to worry about it. This is thanks to Persian being in at the start of the turn. If Tangrowth uses Leech Seed here, it'll always target Staraptor, and if Staraptor decides to target Electivire first, the next Pokemon on the right will always be Bronzong because it resists Flying type. But that actually helps me out here, because now Staraptor will always target Tangrowth, who Brave Bird will always take out in one hit. The Pokemon on the left are the ones I need to worry about the most because Commander Jupiter has a Sableye and a Skuntank. The Sableye knows Shadow Claw and Sucker Punch, so I can't predict it 100% of the time, and Skuntank has Aftermath, which will damage Shedinja if I use a contact move. I can't rely on False Swipe since all of his Pokemon, other than Staraptor, use moves that don't help or that don't have 100% accuracy, and I can't guarantee Staraptor's survival at this point in the battle or target. Factoring in the possibilities of critical hits or even freezing makes it even less of an option, so I need to take out the Skuntank myself. Shedinja's special attack is too low to take out Skuntank this way. The only non-contact physical move Shedinja can learn is Secret Power, a 70 base power normal type move with 100% accuracy that gets bonus effects and changes its animation depending on where you use it. In order to take Sableye out with one Shadow Sneak and Skuntank out with one Secret Power, I need to use Swords Dance once. This is where the path starts to branch out a bit. False Swipe will always have a full health Staraptor here that will outspeed the foes and use Brave Bird on either one of them, which will take the target out. The opponents usually choose their next Pokemon according to what False Swipe has in, which is the best result for me. I use a free Swords Dance. From there, I simply take out whatever Pokemon can damage or status Shedinja, keeping in mind that even though Kangaskhan has Crunch and Perugly has Hypnosis, they'll always use Fake Out on False Swipe's Pokemon the first turn they're sent in. The worst result is that Staraptor targets Tangrowth before Electivire, and Sableye takes his place, which is rare. This time, when I use Swords Dance, I lose my Focus Sash, but the rest of the battle is the same. Worst case scenario, which I couldn't get the AI to do, would be to send in Yanmega while Sableye's in, because then a Pokemon on the left and right could attack Shedinja. It wouldn't even destroy my plan, because I would Shadow Sneak the Sableye and Staraptor would just Brave Bird the other target. I don't have to worry about Yanmega using Detect either, since when Shedinja's in, it'll always attempt to hit it with Hurricane. But Bronzong always comes in before Yanmega, so it doesn't really matter. Time to talk about something much simpler. The God of Space and God of Time both have no moves that affect Shedinja, so that fight is easy. That's a good thing too, because whatever I lead with in that fight is who I'm forced to lead with in the one against Cyrus. That allowed me to have Ralts in the front of my party, and in both fights I immediately switched into Shedinja. For the one against Cyrus, Crobat gets Choice Locked into Cross Poison once more. That's great because both his Crobat and Weavile with a Focus Sash outspeed Shedinja, which would have otherwise been a huge issue. Cyrus isn't the smartest guy.
Should've kept your Master Ball, idiot.
Against Gardenia, I had to make a decision. Should I catch this powerful legendary that's always holding the Gracious Orb with my Master Ball, or save it for later? Ultimately, I decided to run away because I can't breed Gardenia, so I'd have to assume it had the worst nature and IVs. I made the battle against Volkner way harder than it had to be, but I have a good excuse. The text document I've been using this whole time that lists trainers' teams, moves, abilities, and natures said that the lead Jolteon has the ability Static, even though I found out later that it has Volt Absorb. So I was playing around the paralysis chance that I thought existed. It also has Shadow Ball, Outspeed Shedinja, and has a Focus Sash, so setting up Swords Dance isn't an option. For this reason, I breed an Adamant Torchic with Speed Boost and EV train it in attack and speed. As part of my strategy, I caught Gligar that knows 4 moves that affect Shedinja. So I throw a Quick Ball turn 1, and if that 33% capture fails, the attack will get rid of my Focus Sash, so I run away and try again with a new one. It is expensive, but eventually it works. The reasons I needed these Pokemon are, first, because I was going to need a speed boost Blaziken later anyway, and second, because Gliscor knows U-turn and is unaffected by electric type moves. After U-turn, I switch into another Pokemon I trained up for a different fight, but ended up not being the right choice, Ambipom. It had the same solution to its capture as Gligar did. He's unaffected by Shadow Ball, and can even steal a Focus Sash for style points. Since he's in, Electivire comes in next, so I can safely switch into Shedinja while he switches so he can actually damage it. This allows for a Swords Dance and clean sweep of the rest of his team. Raichu actually has the ability Static, so I use Secret Power on it. Even though I used and trained a lot of Pokemon I didn't need here, they'll come in handy later. In the battle against the new character Marley, I'm in a similar situation to what the final Cyrus fight could have been. She has a Crobat and Weavile that outspeed Shedinja. The Crobat is holding Brightpowder, and the Weavile can't be knocked out by one Shadow Sneak. Fortunately, an important distinction between these battles is that she leads with a Pokemon that won't use Brave Bird against Blaziken or Shedinja, considering it's a Starmie and all. It can't hurt Shedinja, and all I need is one speed boost from Blaziken. I can safely use Protect, and after that baton pass the speed boost to Shedinja, who can safely set up a Swords Dance to outspeed and overpower the Sashless team for victory. So far, I've relied mostly on Shedinja and his 1 hit point to get through many fights. He'll still be used in the Pokemon League, but I'm gonna need a lot more than a hit point and a dream to 100% consistently get through this. I mean, each member has 6 Pokemon with good IVs and held items. Flint uses fire Pokemon in the sun, Bertha sets up sand, and Cynthia's got a balanced team with rough skin. But, to explain the main issue, we're gonna have to talk about parallel universes. You see, in this game, every member of the Pokemon League has 4 possible teams they can use, each with different Pokemon, abilities, and held items. Yup, the main problem with the League isn't the powerful Pokemon or needing to prepare for 5 back-to-back fights. For 100% consistency, I have to prepare for 20. Maybe that doesn't even sound too bad, but considering I have to lead with the same Pokemon in every possibility out of each member's 4 fights, since there's no way to know which team you're facing until you're already in the battle, along with the same team, movesets, and held items, this isn't gonna be easy. I'm not gonna be showing the bottom screen of my DS for this part because my team kept changing as I figured out what worked and didn't work. But I didn't re-record a fight if the Pokemon that changed weren't part of the fight to begin with, because that'd be a huge waste of time, and I did each fight 4 times, so this whole thing was 80 long fights for me, and that's only the wins. This way I can explain my thought process as I went along. With that out of the way, the first fight is against Aaron. I'll start with the most problematic one out of his 4 variations. In this fight, Masquerain with Intimidate is his lead. Shedinja can't be my lead here because Masquerain outspeeds it, and Beautifly hangs on with the Focus Sash for the second hit. Instead, I lock in Blaziken as my lead for all 4 of his fights, and even with the attack lower, an Aerial Ace or Fire Punch will take the foe out. Next in is Beautifly. Baton passing to Shedinja will still make it use Hurricane, so I have to figure out how to break the sash without getting hit in return. There's one move in this game that flinches 100% of the time and isn't reliant on using it on the first turn a Pokemon is sent in: Fling. If you use Fling while holding a King's Rock, it turns into a 30 base power dark move that always flinches. For that reason, I buy 5 King's Rocks at the Veilstone Game Corner. With it, and the TM for Fling, I give both to Blaziken so I can Fling on the first turn Beautifly is in, and then finish it next turn with Fire Punch, which, by the way, is the most powerful Fire-type non-recoil move Blaziken can learn. Next in is Drapion, who will always go for Earthquake since it's super effective. Blaziken can't take it out in one hit, so this is the perfect time to Baton Pass into Shedinja to be unaffected. It only needs +1 speed to outspeed the rest of Aaron's team, so this +3 speed it has right now is just icing on the cake. Shedinja can't one-shot Drapion or Heracross, so I use Swords Dance, breaking his sash, but now I can use Dig on the Drapion and Shadow Claw everything else for the guaranteed victory. All of Aaron's other fights go this way, minus the Focus Sash. He always loses his first 2 Pokemon to Blaziken and sends out Drapion third. Even with Intimidate on his team in 2 of the fights, Baton passing Blaziken's attack and speed stat changes, Swords Dance nets Shedinja's attack to +1, and that's all I need to guarantee outspeed and one-shot everything. Aaron honestly wasn't that bad, but Bertha is a whole different story. Her lead Pokemon in all 4 of her possible fights all have the ability Sandstream, which sets up the Sandstorm. This time, I can't lead with the Drizzle Pokemon that's slower than her possible leads because then I'm, slower and get hit. Switching from my Drizzle lead into Shedinja doesn't guarantee a move that won't affect him. Since the Tyrantars both know Crunch and Stone Edge, only one knows Thunder Punch, so I can't rely on that for all 4 possible battles. My best chance to get through this fight is with the weirdest weather-related ability in the game, Cloud 9. When a Pokemon with this ability is in play, weather effects are cancelled out. This includes bonus effects, like how Sandstorm raises any Rock-type Pokemon's special defense by 50%. Notably, it doesn't actually stop the weather. So if I switch from my Pokemon with Cloud 9 to one without that ability, the Sandstorm will resume and damage whoever is sent in. Also, weather is one of those things that's going by Generation 4 logic instead of Generation 7 in this game, so weather abilities last indefinitely, meaning no Protect Stall for me. There are 2 Pokemon with Cloud 9 in this game. The only one that fits the bill is Golduck because of its optimal typing for this fight. He's Water Psychic in this game, most importantly, Water for stab super effective moves for guaranteed one-shots. Not only does he have Cloud 9, he can also learn Fling, which is great because I couldn't otherwise break Focus Sashes. Surf is slightly nerfed in this game. It went from 95 base power down to 90, so I can take out Pokemon it's super effective against, but for a Pokemon like Torterra, I need Ice Beam. With the addition of Psychic typing, the stab boost is enough to take out the water-absorbed Quagsire with 1 Psychic. I get through 3 of Bertha's fights before the last one ruins my strategy for one of Flint's fights, more on that later. Basically, because Golduck is part Psychic, Sudowoodo can sometimes, very rarely, use Sucker Punch. Because it's not 100% of the time, he'll typically use Head Smash. I can't predict it 5 times to run out of PP with the status move. So it's back to the drawing board. No ground, rock, or steel Pokemon can get me through this fight alone, even though they ignore Sandstorm damage, since no Pokemon that fits that typing can learn Fling and has enough type coverage for all 24 of Bertha's Pokemon. Also, I can only afford to use 2 team slots for the battles against Bertha, otherwise I can't guarantee my victory for the other members. It looks like Drizzle really is my only chance. I noticed something about all 4 of Bertha's late Pokemon. They all know Earthquake. If I can bait her into using it while switching into the only Drizzle Pokemon that has a type immunity, Pelipper, I can set up the rain safely while outspeeding all her Pokemon now that I don't have to worry about being slower to set up the rain. I get a Bastiodon and level it up so her leads will always use Earthquake, or in rare instances, a Powdon can use Stealth Rock. Either way, my switch happens first. I can sweep everything with Pelipper's Rain Boosted Surf and have Hurricane for type coverage, which has 100% accuracy in the rain. Pelipper also learns Fling, so I don't have to worry about switching to break Sashes, which wouldn't work consistently because of potential Stealth Rocks. Sudowoodo will never use Sucker Punch, since it's only normally effective, and instead opt for Head Smash, which is 4 times super effective. For Flint, I was initially using Golduck, Houndoom, and Shedinja. He sets up the sun with Drought on 3 of his leads, the other one only has the move Sunny Day. His battles were pretty simple before I swapped out Golduck for Pelipper. I just surfed everything that didn't have a Focus Sash and used Ice Beam on Drifloon. His most complicated variations were the 2 with his Lopunny. In one of them, Charizard is holding a Choice Specs. It can live a hit, but goes for Solar Beam, which has to charge under the effects of Cloud 9. Golduck can't take out the Lopunny on its own because its move slots are full. I need Fling to break a Focus Sash and Protect since Lopunny will use Fake Out on the first turn it's in. Instead, when Charizard is sent in, I switch to Shedinja. Even though the move doesn't need a turn to charge anymore, it doesn't affect it. And like Cyrus, the AI decides it's best to stay in. Which is so kind, considering I don't outspeed the Arcanine and need to use Shadow Sneak, which wouldn't do enough damage without Swords Dance. Lopunny outspeeds and can burn Shedinja with Blaze Kick, but since I win the battle on the same turn, I can use a Burn Heal afterwards. I needed Houndoom's Flash Fire ability, which I caught earlier by tracing it so it couldn't hurt me with its strictly Fire-type attacking moves. Switching to a Ghost Pokemon isn't an option because of Scrappy, but I needed it for Flint's other Lopunny that's holding a Focus Sash. I can break the Sash with Fling, but Surf won't be enough to follow up and I'll get hit. Instead, after Fling, I switch to Shedinja on an incoming Sunny Day or Mega Kick. Then, switch into Houndoom for the incoming Blaze Kick to activate Flash Fire and finish the fight with the boosted Flamethrower. Fire moves have consistently been a problem since a lot of them can burn and they break Shedinja's Focus Sash. One item doesn't play around both of these possibilities. I had to make room on my team with the addition of Pelipper, and with him on and Houndoom out, there might be a way I can solve this fight. If I could just bait the Magmortar that comes in before Lopunny into using Solar Beam, I could switch into Pelipper, which would still make Solar Beam take a turn to charge. With Pelipper's Fling and Rain Boosted Surf or Hurricane, it would take out the Lopunny. Even though the Magmortar knows Solar Beam, it prioritizes Thunderbolt, but because I don't need Psychic for Bertha anymore, I have Golduck relearn Disable. Now, when I disable Thunderbolt, it'll use its other super effective move, Solar Beam. Or not, it'll use its not very effective move. I tested and found that the reason it's not using Solar Beam is because the sun isn't up. This is the one battle, sun isn't immediately set up with Drought, so if I want it up, I need to leave Rapidash alone. Sure enough, the AI is only using Solar Beam because it thinks it doesn't need to charge, since the sun is technically still up. I've been exploiting this for all of Flint's other fights without even knowing. Like how the reason I can't lead with a Pokemon to bait out Solar Beam and switch into Pelipper is because he's slower than a Choice Scarfed Houndoom. Even though Golduck is also slower, it charges Solar Beam against him. Now the problem is getting the AI to use Sunny Day. It'll either use that or Mega Horn against Golduck, so all I have to do is protect turn 1. If Sunny Day was used, I'm free to continue the battle. If Mega Horn is used, on the next turn I use Disable, which will prevent the second attempt at hitting Mega Horn. On the next turn, Rapidash will always use Sunny Day in this state. Hit everything with the appropriate attacking move until Magmortar comes in. Since the sun is up at the start of his turn, it'll use Solar Beam, which is forced to charge after Drizzle puts up the rain. Surf takes out the Magmortar, and a combination of Fling and Hurricane takes out the Sash and Lopunny. Since I lost Fling on Golduck for this battle to work, it's worth mentioning that the other Pokemon with Focus Sashes on Flint's other teams always charge Solar Beam because of the Cloud 9 exploit. Meaning I don't need Fling on Golduck for any of Flint's battles, and Golduck with this moveset works as my lead for all of them. Lucian's battle is actually a joke. I lead with Blaziken since his Alakazam has a Focus Sash and Shadow Ball for Shedinja. With this lead, I can also KO all of his Reflect leads without them setting up screens, then Baton Pass into Shedinja. I don't think it's necessary, but one Sword Stance then attack everything except Rafford with Shadow Claw. None of his other teams even have a Focus Sash. He's basically Aaron 2.0. Cynthia's another trainer I have to lead with Blaziken for and Baton Pass into Shedinja at the appropriate time. Her leads can't be taken out with a single Fire Punch, but most of them get taken out by Fling followed by Fire Punch. Then I can Baton Pass into Shedinja, set up one Sword Stance, and sweep. I need Secret Power for this fight so I don't get hurt by Garchomp's ability, Rough Skin. Her two leads that don't faint to the Fling and Fire Punch combo are Milotic and Togekiss. The Milotic is terrible against my team though. It knows Light Screen, but not Reflect, so I don't have to worry about it setting up a relevant screen on the second turn when I Baton Pass. When I do, Shedinja sets up Sword Stance on the turn she switches into a Pokemon that can actually hit it. I need 2 speed boosts, otherwise Staraptor outspeeds Shedinja. I need my Focus Sash active, since I can't one-shot Garchomp with a +2 Secret Power. Against her Togekiss lead, the possibility of her using Reflect while holding the Light Clay seems scary at first, but I can just set up 2 Sword Stances. In this fight, for some reason, she sends in Togekiss after anything faints, and then because it has no moves to damage Shedinja, switches out, wasting her turns. Maybe she's trying to bait me into hitting her Rough Skin Pokemon with Shadow Claw, keeping in mind that Togekiss is Fairy Flying in this game. But I'm probably giving the AI too much credit here. Against Togekiss in this one battle, always use Secret Power to avoid making contact with Garchomp. The most problematic lead she can have is appropriately Spiritomb. After I take it out with Blaziken, she sends out Togekiss, who has Air Slash and Thunder Wave as the moves she'll use in this situation. I tried this battle at least 50 times and found that she would only use Air Slash if my speed was +2. Anything above and it would always be Thunder Wave. Either way, this isn't a safe Baton Pass to Shedinja, since I need a Sword Stance up for Garchomp and her 2 Pokemon that have sleep-inducing moves. Fire Punch isn't strong enough to one-shot. I need to Baton Pass into a Pokemon that won't get affected by Thunder Wave or is holding a Cherry Berry and can finish the fight from there. At first, I thought a ground type holding a Choice Band to one-hit things would work, like Gliscor. I can't lock him into Earthquake since Togekiss is part flying. My next best stat move, Fly, which has 100% accuracy and 100 base power in this game, can take out the Togekiss, which will make Cynthia bring Milotic out. This is perfect. She has nothing to hit Shedinja with except Hypnosis, which she would then switch into a Pokemon that could damage it while asleep. It's great because she won't use those moves on Shedinja if it's already asleep. For that reason, I brought a Shedinja who had Hypnosis used on it in the wild. That means she'll switch, giving me a free one in return. Well, I mean, that's what I thought would happen at least. For some reason, the AI acts differently when Shedinja is asleep, and can actually use a move that wouldn't affect it instead of switching to a Pokemon with a super effective move like they would always do otherwise. So even though Golduck would have been able to take out Garchomp and Roserade, leaving Cynthia nothing to deal with Shedinja, it's not guaranteed, apparently. I also tried other Pokemon holding a Cherry Berry, except couldn't find one strong enough to take out the remaining 5 Pokemon by themselves. But maybe there's a Pokemon that could support shedinja and properly bait Cynthia so I can always win this fight. It would have to be a Pokemon that can learn Baton Pass and is also weak to Fighting type, so she'll send out her Lucario, who is the only Pokemon on her team that poses no threat to shedinja at all, since it only has 4 attacking moves that all don't affect it. And that Pokemon is Ambipom. Blaziken passes on his speed to Ambipom, who heals paralysis with his held Cherry Berry, then takes out Togekiss in 2 Technician boosted hits. When Lucario is sent out, he Baton Passes to shedinja, so it keeps the +3 speed. From this point, one Swords Dance and then using Secret Power for the remainder of the fight is a guaranteed win. At most, shedinja loses its Sash if Garchomp is sent in and hits Stone Edge. But once he's 2-shot, the battle is essentially over, and I officially beat Pokemon Renegade Platinum without taking damage. Mostly anyway. With that, my 6 team members, who were all necessary to beat the Pokemon League 100% consistently damageless, are all registered into the Hall of Fame. And even though I appreciate them all, let's not forget about the other legends that we couldn't have gotten here without. Hey, if you somehow made it this far, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and that the effort I put into it was obvious. If you did enjoy, consider subscribing. I've got more Pokemon challenges on difficult ROM hacks coming in the future. I've also got other Pokemon challenges up already, so maybe check those out. I don't know, bye.